Welcome back to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini, a teacher turned chaos coordinator for two toddlers. Jillian Riley manages to make time for her passion despite stay-at-home mom duties. She has published her first book. It is entitled Faded Through Time, The Golden Mate. Now, you've always written, right?
Not really, no. I mean, it's always kind of been on my bucket list. And I've always said, I'm going to publish a book one day, and never really took it seriously. I was published when I was younger. I did some oral histories with some Holocaust survivors in the area. And because I've always loved history. And then I had my two girls and I wasn't teaching, and I needed some sort of creative outlet, and I wasn't creating content for my classroom. So I decided, I was like, let me just see if I can do this. And it kind of started out as, I'm just going to get a story out. And then it kind of snowballed from there. I was like, oh, well, I'm actually writing. I'm really enjoying this process, and I'm really getting a lot of chapters out. And I was like, well, let's take a stab at this and give it the old college try. And here I am with a book in front of me with my name on it.
That's awesome. What was the inspiration?
Well, I have always loved to read, but when I was an AP teacher, I was reading medical journals and all sorts of like historical accounts of battles and economic disparities and all sorts of things that just really weren't pleasure reading. And when I stepped away from the classroom, I kind of got back into reading, and I started really kind of consuming as much as I could. I mean, I read about anywhere between 150 to 250 books a year. I really enjoy it. And I felt like it took forever to meet my husband. And so there's a little kernel of my love story in this book. Not so much with the betrayal or anything, but all the wanting to find your person and just barely missing them constantly for years. And turns out that's kind of what my husband and I were doing. And through reading a ton of fantasy novels at the time, I kind of was like, I'm not really seeing this in any of the books that I'm reading. And it kind of gave birth to this idea that is Faded Through Time.
So you guys were kind of in each other's orbit, but you kept missing each other.
But we had no idea. And his family is actually from my hometown. And so I grew up in and out of different circles, running into his family, not really engaging much. I think I actually played on a soccer team when I was younger with his cousin and his uncle who lived down the end of our road. And, we didn't really kind of put the pieces together until fate have you, brought him down to Ocala, and he became a police officer, and we kind of met through real serendipitous chance meeting kind of. And then we kind of started telling each other our stories and stuff. And we're like, oh my gosh, we've really kind of, how have I missed you for this long? And
oh, that's so funny. So how do you lay out your book?
It's probably like the most unconventional way. I most writers probably kind of sit down and they plot it out and they have time. I actually planned it in my head driving to and from baby appointments with a really colicky baby and a really fussy toddler in the car. And I had children's music going, and I'm driving an hour to an appointment, and then nursing on the side of the road, planning this out, and then driving an hour home. And I was like, after I did that for a couple of weeks, I was like, I think I've got a pretty solid story. Let me sit down and get some of this on paper. And so it kind of fell into place like that.
What's going on with Alpha Callan?
So Callan is an alpha of his pack, and he is a little different than most male characters that you would find. He's very open and vocal about something inside of him isn't complete, and he's looking for his person to complete him. And he doesn't realize, but he actually sees her on his 18th birthday from afar, and he can't figure out, why am I connected to this person? And then he catches her scent, and he knows this is my mate, but he can't find her. And then over the year, a year goes by and they still can't figure out who this girl is or where she's at. And each one of his family members and best friends ends up over the course of many years running into her and having some sort of meaningful re- reaction or interaction with her. And somehow she ends up being tied into the political issues that are happening surrounding the supernatural community, and it just kind of grows this mystery around who is this woman, and why can't they find her, because they're trying everything they possibly can, and she's nowhere to be seen. And each one of them kind of falls in love with her in their own way through friendship, uh, and that it turns into this desperate plea, like how can we find Paige? And eventually she comes back and ends up running into Callan, and it's not as happy and serendipitous as he would have liked it to be, but it's a story of growth and forgiveness. And when you don't believe, how your friends can really carry you the distance.
Ooh, is this the start of a series?
It is.
Yeah.
So I end on this wonderful cliffhanger in this book, and I'm, in between, nap times when I can, I'm planning out the second one. It'll be at least three. But I did fall in love with a couple of the side characters, and I could see their stories, and they might get a short novella or standalone that can kind of be read in between a few of the Faded Through Time books.
Jillian, it sounds like this is a great escape for you. It sounds like this is what's helping you get through dealing with two little ones.
Oh, motherhood is beautiful chaos. Anybody who has kids, I mean, it's the hardest work you'll ever do, but it's the most rewarding.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful creative outlet. It's a different part of the brain than, managing little people who are having a hard time managing their own feelings. So it's a lovely escape, and just, it's been a really, really fun journey for me to learn the business, to create a story that, I keep in mind that as a reader myself, I don't want to be strung along and desperate through a book that, I don't want to finish it. So I kind of kept that in mind when I was writing, that I want my readers to be, hanging on every word, but I want them to want to be there and want to finish the story.
How are you telling people about it?
I have a few different social media outlets, and my Bible study group of moms has actually been wonderful. It's turned into book club now, and so it's been fun to watch them pick apart their favorite characters and beg me for answers before anyone else gets them to the next book.
Oh, that's great. Do you have time to do a book signing or?
I have actually gone to a couple of Barnes and Nobles here in the Central Florida area, and I have signed all the copies they have on the shelf and just kind of left them for unsuspecting readers. I'm working with a couple of different bookstores.
Okay. Any advice for aspiring authors who say, I have two kids, I don't have time to write a book?
You'd be imagined when you can find the time. What I would say, what do you have to lose? Just let the story come out and see where it takes you.
Is social media helping you?
Yes, social media, and I think it's a great platform, because I know I use it myself to I wouldn't say badger, but I would say connect with my favorite authors about what they're doing with their characters. I think it's really turned the love of books into something deeper than what it used to be, and really opens up access to for readers and authors alike to learn and grow with each other.
So you would definitely suggest that.
I would, definitely.
And you can do it just from your computer.
And you can do it from Carline. You can do it from the rocking chair when you're nap trapped with your babies.
Yeah.
You can do it anywhere.
All right. Jillian Riley, author of Faded Through Time, The Golden Mate. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Ralph Pop Bucci ran a multi-million-dollar company before he suffered a brain injury in an accident, but managed to bounce back. Did a little substitute teaching, he retired, and now he's a published author. Now, Ralph, your children's book, Santa Paws, The Cat Who Saved Christmas, it's a little fantasy and a little reality too, right?
My granddaughter was going through her 8th birthday, and she said, well, there's little stories that I've read, and she goes, none of them are interesting because it makes like this Santa Claus isn't really visible. So I said, well, you don't know the whole story. And then I told her the story back in 1974. A family that was living in Houston, Texas. The father worked for the government. He was like an inventor, engineer, and so on. And my mother was a stay-at-home mom, but only with one child. So anyway, he had to move up to Anasquat, Alaska. And they both became very involved in the welfare of the elders and, the church and all that. And my father, so-to-be father, took us to see Santa Claus's workshop up by the North Pole. We weren't too far, we were about 12 miles away. And I was waiting in line before all these kids, and you could see him giving all the kids a candy cane. I said, oh, geez, last thing I need is a candy cane. So, so anyway, I get up there and I'm really sad. And he goes, what's the matter, Hunter? And said my name. I go, you do know me. Says, and I know what you want. What would you like? So I whispered it into his ear. I said, I'd like a little fluffy kitten. So he goes, I found just the right one for you. And he pulls out this tabby cat and gives it to me. And he goes, okay, Hunter, what are you going to name him? I'm going to name him Santa Paws. So that's how he became into my loving arms. But it's actually my cat. I had 2 tabby cats, orange tabby cats,
Yeah.
both male. One I called Bigfoot Paws because his paws were as big as my hand.
Oh, geez.
And the other one's Morristown Bucci. So he had a middle name and a last name. But anyway, I made up the name Santa Paws. Said, well, Hunter, this is a very special cat, kitten, and I'm going to check up on you when I come by your place on Christmas Eve. I said, oh, will you? And I thought, hey, where's my my candy cake? He said, no, you got the special gift. So anyway, I'm telling my granddaughter because after about 45 minutes, she just, and what else happened, Papa?
So, how did the cat save Christmas?
What happened was there was a huge snowstorm in Anasqua, Alaska. And my mother and father were to go out and do wellness checks on the elders. So they gathered food supplies, newspapers, coffee, that sort of thing. And they would take their big snowmobiles and a van attached to it to these different places, set them up. They would stay, have coffee with them. And what happened was they lost their way trying to come back home. They were going around this lake, which was like a running river lake. So they were absolutely lost. So when my mother and father didn't appear, I heard a knock at the door, and it was my minister and a sheriff. And they will look sad and they said, I'm sorry, Hunter, but we have some bad news. And he told me that my mother and father are missing. They followed up 3 of the different places, but they lost all track of them from there. Now, the snowmobile that he had was state of the art. Remember back in the 60s, they were doing all the space thing in Houston. Well, he did a lot of that. He even created Bluetooth, um, you know, biomedics and so on. So he was good for that. They brought him up to Anasqua to help straighten their NORAD system out, which was, for all the military things to protect us.
Wait, Ralph, is this all this in the book?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
Anyway, we're waiting for the police to try and find him, and Santa Claus scratching at the door, yowling. And I said, "What do you want?" He's like, he wants out. I said, "Are you telling me we're going to look for mom and dad?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he blows through the door, and he's under the snow to the garage. So I follow him, and there's my dad's old snowmobile. So I said, "Well, we got to think about this." So I brought crackers and cookies, things I could stick in, you know, and then I put Santa Claus in my snow jacket. But the old snowmobile was the type you had to kickstart. Now, remind you, I'm 9 years old. I don't know how to kickstart other than what my dad would say when he did it, and he cursed and he cursed till it started. So I said, "No, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to say a prayer." I said a prayer, and on the first day, it came to life.
Okay, so the Santa Claus helps you find your parents.
Yes. Yeah. And then there was an adventure doing that because we went over the lake, a portion of it, and the river was taking hold of us, and we were like sinking. So Santa Claus put his hand on the throttle and forced me to go as fast as I could. And we went flying through the air.
You said, there's comedy, drama, fantasy, and,
Yeah.
all this in the determination to save Hunter's missing parents and overcome a hopeless situation. So
Yeah.
Santa Claus leads the way, and you
Yep.
leave the possibility open for a
Yeah.
follow-up book.
Well, here goes the story. What happened is Santa Claus took us in, and we had dinner with them, and you know, and as a matter of fact, the chief elf was my granddaughter, like Chief Elf 80, and she goes, "Oh no!" When I put all the pictures I did were AI, so I caught it to a T, and had to put in slowly but surely. Got the pictures of how I wanted them to appear.
Oh man, that's
So
great.
anyway, Santa Claus said he would take us in the sleigh with all the reindeer, and he
Okay.
said he's going to take Rudolph because it's really blurry out there.
Right.
So anyway, Santa Claus sits up with Santa, and we're riding around with the elf and he felt Katie and myself, and we're sitting in the back. And then all of a sudden, Santa Claus taps Santa on the cheek. I said, "What is it?" And he points his paw down to a dark chism or a chasm. And he said, "What's that?" And you'll see a, a picture of Santa Claus looking down the crevice. And that's where they were. So Santa had to take out his magical golden rope, and he saved them from the, the abyss. So anyway, when they came up, it was like all happy. We were all happy to see each other. And then we noticed, what was that? It was like a, a, a gold case. It was about a foot by a foot by a foot. And it had drawings on it like Aztec or Inca. We didn't know much about that.
Right.
Anyway, we opened it up, and there were jewels and gold and so on of what the Inuit had taken over when they came over the Bering Sea. in the freeze age, the ice age.
So this is the teaser, the sequel teaser.
Yeah, but you'll see maps in the back.
So have you started your sequel about the hunt for a lost civilization and treasure?
Well, it's going to be uh, when Hunter grows up a little, because he wants his father and mother to start now. Santa, can we do it? No, it's too dangerous. So anyway, and you know how the Inuit and those people living in Alaska, they had nothing. So I swore it's my duty to find all this out and then seek Santa's help, of course,
Okay.
with Santa Claus.
Your granddaughter's now what?
She's going to be 10.
Oh, she's going to be 10.
Yeah, but she believes in this, that there are good people, they do good things. And this just happens to be something that's based on fantasy and then truth.
Okay. Is your granddaughter sharing Santa Paws with her friends?
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, one of her best friends, Charlotte, is the other elf. You know, I've been getting calls from my family and some of my daughter-in-law's family, because they think they've read it and they would like a signed copy. So I wrote it for my granddaughter, but when somebody says that is really cool, then I took it uh, to Fulton Books, and they worked out a deal for me. You know,
This is an adorable book, Ralph. I can't wait for the sequel.
well, the sequel's going to be a little bit of Hunter growing up and fostering his desire to find what happened to the Inca and the Aztec.
All right. Ralph Pop Pop Bucci,
Yes,
author of Santa Paws, The Cat Who Saved Christmas. Thanks so much for talking to me today.
I appreciate it.
After 25 years, Brandy Laree was relieved of her duties at a large insurance company with little fanfare and a lot of angst. But you know what? It all worked out, didn't it, Brandy? She's written 2 children's books and a cookbook that we're going to talk about today. It is entitled Eat In with a Girl Who Loves Simple, Delicious Home-Cooked Meals. So for you, termination led to determination, didn't it? And you never even wrote before.
Nope, that's when I started. I was given a 60-day notice and they said, you're pretty much done here. We don't need you to continue working. We want you just to focus on yourself. And so I did the normal stuff. I updated my resume, started applying. And then I'm like, gosh, I can't just sit here and wait. So I had some friends who were telling me recently, hey, you should write a cookbook. So I'm like, you know what? I got time. I'm going to do it. So I did that and wrote the children's book alongside of it. And the children's book, the first one is A Puppy Named Ezekiel. And then the second one that just came out is Ezekiel's Camping Adventures, the sequel from the first one based off of our puppy.
So you've published 3 books through Page.
Correct.
And the first one being released is Eat In with a Girl Who Loves Simple, Delicious Home-Cooked Meals.
Yes.
So there must be a reason that your friends suggested you do a cookbook.
I do enjoy it. I've always enjoyed it. I've got 2 grown boys now, and just that was my favorite time, after work, cooking dinner and making different things that they like. You know how picky kids can be when they're little.
Yeah.
So it just became a pleasure.
And do you want to encourage people to cook more at home instead of ordering out or buying, food that's already made?
Absolutely. I think there is a pleasure in making your own dish. And a lot of places today are, they don't season things as much as they used to in the past because of allergies and other things. I just think there's more flavor in a dish that you can make at home.
Do you have any favorite dishes or unique dishes or a unique twist on a dish that everybody makes?
A little of both, I would say. The first chapter in the cookbook is a lot of recipes that I do probably on a weekly basis. different seasonings you throwing in. One of my favorite is sauteed onions and garlic in a chicken, and then I've done shrimp as well. And it's just, they're easy, simple recipes, but it's just a jar of Alfredo sauce with some pasta noodles. And then I take in butter and saute with olive oil, some minced garlic, some seasoning, just to marinate.
It's chicken and shrimp together?
Yeah.
And a jar of Alfredo sauce. How dare you? You don't make your own?
Yeah. I have not yet. It's on my list of things to do though. That and the homemade tomato pasta too.
So these are things that you make every week. What else?
Yeah, so these are just easy, simple recipes. There's a chicken parm recipe that, I always thought, oh, that dish looks so hard. Walked through it one day and I'm like, gosh, this is actually pretty dang easy.
What'd you do?
So that's another one. I just, you take the chicken breast and pound it out a little bit to flatten it out.
Yeah.
And then I use pasta and pasta noodles a lot. I buy the big blocks of cheese. I don't do shredded cheese at all, so I'll shred my own stuff. I think it just gives it more flavor. Parsley, I love parsley. So using fresh parsley, and that I even grow in my own garden.
Yeah. What do you do with the chicken?
So you pound it out and then you roll it in the flour and the Italian seasoning, breadcrumbs, an egg. And then you fry that up a little bit so it's good and coated brown in olive oil. And then do some minced garlic in there. Mix milk in with the eggs when you batter it. And then just lay it out on a tin foil. And then just layer on the sauce, the cheese, the parsley, and bake it up.
Okay, and this is, what kind of sauce do you recommend?
I'll mix it up just to give different flavors sometimes, but I love the Italian sauces with that full of flavor.
Is there a brand that you mention in your book?
No, a lot of it I leave open to preferences of, people that have their favorites, so I don't really pick.
Okay.
I just label it pasta sauce.
Do you have a favorite meal that you make?
I would say my favorite is in chapter 2, are passed down memories from my mom through her generations. And it's a homemade burrito. And it's different. I think the thing that makes it different is you fill the shell with the yummies, roll it up, and then I fry it.
What do you put in the burrito?
So just ground beef. Then I put in like a 31-ounce can of the traditional refried beans, a little can of tomato paste, and then I'll make my own burrito seasoning because you can't really find that anywhere in packets. There's taco seasoning a lot. So you mix your seasoning in there, some cayenne pepper to give it a little bit of boosted flavor, and that's it. It's pretty simple. Mix all that together.
You fry the burrito?
Yeah, just in canola oil in a big skillet.
You know what? That sounds like a chimichanga.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
And I love those too.
Oh, I
So
do
it's
too.
the best of both worlds.
That does sound easy.
Scoop it onto the shell with some cheddar cheese, shredded cheddar cheese, and roll it up, and you're good to go once you get it fried.
Wow. Okay. So your second chapter is meals passed down from your mom. Read off your chapters for me.
Chapter 1 is entrees to love. And again, that's covered in just ones I like to make often. And then chapter 2 is memories passed down. And then the memories passed down holds a variety of different things. So there's some desserts in there, some breads. And then chapter 3, I did some additional simple and tasty desserts.
Nice. How are you telling people about your book?
Well, I have been blowing up social media, first of all. I have a lot of friends, obviously, through every time I cook a meal, it seems like I post it on like Facebook, Instagram, and that's where I've started getting oh, you should make a cookbook. That looks so good, so that's what led to doing the cookbook. But then with the publication of all 3 books, I've been going local. So hitting some of the local bookstores. I've got a couple of them selling my books now. I've gone out to Range Me, which is a retail site that also they go to this site to purchase. And I've got Walmart selling my book now through that.
That's awesome.
I've donated a lot. We've got a couple big children's hospitals locally. I've got Blank here in Des Moines. I've donated books to for the kids with the children's book. And then we've got Iowa City has the big Steed Family Hospital. And I've donated to them as well.
Have you done any author signings or talks?
Yeah, I have my first ones through Barnes and Noble. And then I've got some like festivals coming up that I'm going to put a stand out to sell as well.
You're really enjoying this, aren't you?
I'm loving it.
Beats the heck out of selling insurance, huh?
It does. I don't know how I maintained a job before. I feel like I'm busier now than I was before.
And you feel fulfilled.
I do. I really do.
Any advice for, people maybe stuck in a job they hate and they really want to write a book, but they don't know how to get started?
Yeah, I say, I did it all on my own. I got on Google and just did some research on some publishing places. And, I think I really got lucky. Paige has been amazing. I think when I first started, I reached out to 5 different publishing houses, and Samantha with Paige had reached out to me through email within the first hour. And that's one of the reasons I went with this company over the other ones. But, I wish I'd had support from somebody else. Like I knew somebody else who had written a book that could help me walk through it, because that overcomes the fear. But I guess in my in my experience, you just got to go for it. I've always had the passion and dream to write a children's book. I've just never put it on paper and actually went through the steps to get it published. And honestly, I wish I had back in the day, but you got to dedicate time to your dreams. Coming from a career with a corporation, I've learned, you're replaceable at any minute. So having a supporting backup, something you enjoy if you're going to work. I don't say don't go to a corporation and work, but always have a plan of something else you're doing on the side that fulfills that joy, because I didn't have that before.
So the children's books are your real passion, and then this cookbook that we're talking about was just something that, everybody was saying, hey, you got some great recipes, you got to do that too.
Yeah, the other thing, I've always had family and friends, hey, can I get that recipe from you? So it really was a exciting thing to put it together that I can say, here's my book. I don't have to email it to you, the recipe. I don't have to send it to you. I don't have to write it down. I've got it all here. And with the passed down memories, I cherished those and wanted to pass those down to the family, because there's other family members, not just my boys, that still enjoy grandma's cookies or that family burrito recipe. That it brings me joy to know they have it all in one place now.
That's great. Brandy Laree, eat in with a girl who loves simple, delicious home-cooked meals. Thanks so much for talking to me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Ed Formica is a long way from being an account manager with customers from Oracle to Honeywell. Now he's writing screenplays and books like Mr. Tigglesworth's Funny Bunnies. Ed, this is a fairly recent transition for you, isn't it?
So when I departed back on, let's think about this. I started this in 2021, retired in 2022, and then it got published this June of 2025. Never been a writer before. I mean, I've tried to write lyrics and songs over my, lifetime.
So what made you decide to write Mr. Tigglesworth's Funny Bunnies? Where did that come from?
Well, Mr. Tigglesworth, the name came from my grandson, my oldest grandson. When he was, when they would come to visit, he would come in the house and he was just learning to walk and everything, and he would wiggle a little bit and go back, and I would just say, "Hey, it's Mr. Tigglesworth. Look, here he is." And this came out of thin air, to be honest with you, the Mr. Tigglesworth. And the Funny Bunnies just came from as the family grew, my grandchildren grew as far as the number of grandchildren I had. That came from just watching my daughter and me trying to teach them how to play baseball. And I have videos. I was just looking at a video recently of my daughter teaching her oldest son to hit the ball off the top of that little stand. You know what I mean? When there's like
T-ball.
T-ball. Yeah, exactly.
Watching paint dry T-ball, swing and miss.
Yes, I remember those days very well. Very well.
So these are three funny bunnies and their siblings.
Correct.
Are they your grandchildren?
Yes, I changed their names.
Okay. Olivia, Mason, and James are based on your grandchildren.
Right. Mr. Tigglesworth is just this fun neighborhood guy that all the kids like to go by and see. He always welcomes them to come over and play in his nice backyard that he has. And he's just a wonderful neighbor that always wants to inspire them and always enjoys the kids. The three bunnies are excited because they're going to teach their younger brother, James Bunny, the fundamentals of how to play baseball, like hitting, catching, pitching, because he does all those things, and he's learning from his two older siblings. But first, the siblings have to do the little chores of like making the beds, very much like I had to do with me and my sisters growing up. So before they leave, the mom makes them have a nice breakfast, and they go out to Mr. Tigglesworth's yard, and they're in the front yard right now, and they're tossing the ball around. They're having lots of fun, and you can see by the expression of James Bunny that he's like, "Hey, what about me? I thought I'm here to learn with you guys." And then eventually they start tossing him the ball as well. And then so they are setting up the yard in Mr. Tigglesworth, setting up the baseball diamond in Mr. Tigglesworth's yard. And James wants to learn how to catch a grounder. So his older brother Mason hits the ball to him, and they're impressed because he hits it right to James Bunny, and he stops the ball right at his chest. For being a new player, never really playing the game before, they're very impressed with his skills.
Oh.
So what happens next is James Bunny, they toss him the ball and say, "Hey, now it's your turn to pitch." And Mason's at bat, and Olivia's being the catcher right now. And Mason is ready to bat, and James throws the ball, and Mason swings, and it's a big miss. And James Bunny's real happy because he actually struck out his brother. Mason's a little frustrated, but they're jumping up and down, and they're having fun and giggling and laughing and just having a blast at that point. But now, along the story, now Mason wants James to bat. It's his turn to get his little brother back and throw him a zinger. And he's a little discouraged because he knows that Mason's bigger and stronger than he is, and he's like, what if I do something wrong? And Olivia, his older sister, is encouraged to say, "Hey, we're just here to have fun and learn, and just get up there and do your best." So James is encouraged at this point. He's ready to do. He's got you can see the excitement in his face. His brows are lifted, and he's ready for it. And Mason throws him one, and James Bunny hits it so hard that the ball goes over Mr. Tigglesworth's neighbor's yard. And
wow.
Yes, they are impressed. Olivia is jumping up and down. She takes her catcher's mask off, and Mason's running for the ball towards the fence. But guess what? James hit it out of the ballpark, and he's running. He knows it's too late. James slides in, and he hits home plate, and he hit a home run. First time up bat.
I love that this is all for fun.
Absolutely. Family fun.
And they're all happy for him, hit his first home run, and it's okay if you mess up, and it's okay because it's all about learning and enjoying the sport.
Absolutely.
What a great message.
Yeah, that's the way we grew up. My sisters and I and my friends and family, and it's just there's a lot of my childhood in this book as well. When I wrote it, some inspiration from people, and even in the opening pages, when you look at the bedroom with the cross on the wall, that was very much my bedroom with my sisters. I had 5 sisters and me. I was the youngest of the 6 of us, and
Oh my gosh.
we shared 2 bedrooms, and we certainly had to make our beds every day, and just a wonderful upbringing with wonderful neighbors and friends and family. We were truly blessed to be able to express this in this book here.
And this is just the beginning, right?
Yeah. We actually have, I should say, I actually have 2 more drafts of 2 more Mr. Tigglesworth books, kind of getting ready to go. We're going to let this one get out there a little bit, and this is just the beginning for us. So I know it's doing okay, right? I don't know how well it's selling, but I know it's selling because I get messages from people. On my website, I have at the MrTigglesworth.com, I have how can Mr. Tigglesworth help, the community. I'll be glad to go to schools. There is a school that's interested in me coming up to read at their daycare to the children, and I'm very excited to be doing that. I would like to get down to Children's Hospital and offer my time down there, libraries, churches, anyone that's looking for someone to read to the children and help them learn is what I want to do. That's my message there.
You're getting it out with MrTigglesworth.com.
Yes, we are. And word of mouth. Yep. And we are just getting started.
Seems like you're on a roll now. I mean, what's next for Mr. Tigglesworth?
Well, the next thing is Count to 10 with Mr. Tigglesworth Friends. So it's going to be for very young readers trying to learn to count like 1 through 10. And it's going to bring back some of the bunnies, and it's going to have new characters in there as well. And not only is it teaching the children to count, but we're going to learn how to rhyme, like what rhymes with 1. And there'll be choices down at the bottom: fun, run, and something like the word zoo. Like zoo does not rhyme with the number 1. So we're going to teach them how to rhyme things, children how to rhyme, spell, and count. So that's what we're after for the next book for Mr. Tigglesworth.
All right. Ed Formica, author of Mr. Tigglesworth's Funny Bunnies, and you're just getting started.
Yes, I am. I'm very blessed and fortunate.
Any advice for struggling authors out there?
Yeah, so I mean, you have to do what's very passionate to you, and so I would encourage them to do as much research as they possibly can. Join other groups like the American Society of Composers, Authors and Publishers. If you have friends or family that written other books, lean on them for advice. I myself was asked to help out another author that I'm excited to help. I don't want to give away what this person's doing, but it's going to be a hit for sure. And I learned a lot. My journey took a little bit longer. Don't get discouraged. Don't settle for anything less than what you think is your best material, because it's your story, it's your name. Because there's a lot of things that you're going to not expect if you've never done this before. But don't get discouraged. Just hang in there. Reach out to people. Keep true to yourself, and just do the very best you possibly can with your story.
Great advice, Ed. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully you have a wonderful day and week.
Angela Zurzola is proof living with mental illness does not have to be incapacitating. In her book, Perfectly Misunderstood, she details her battles with mental illness, her determination to deal with it, and proof with proper care, management, and education, you can live a decent life. Now, Angela, you started writing this book in 2019.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing was that I started out with the idea of writing a book, and I wanted to do it with my dad. And my dad had all these crazy stories about mental illness, and he had addiction problems and all this and that. So it was going to be 2 authors, but then he passed away, and I sort of did it in honor of him.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but he saw my original transcript, and he read the whole thing that was raw, like rough draft.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that helped me. But the idea, I love music so much, so the idea of infusing the lyrics in there was like my creativity. If I heard songs that resonated with me, then I'd be like, okay, which clip from the song could be fitting in with PTSD or with trauma or anything like that. And that was the process of like, it was sort of like puzzle pieces that I would go in and search and do keyword searches and that type of thing in order to put it together with the balance of music, of lyrics and my writing.
Yeah. So tell me what you came up with.
It's really just like me, very first page. It talks about talking to myself, and it's an Eminem song. And then I get into, this is my diagnosis of ADD, ADHD actually, anxiety, depression, and PTSD. So then I'm like, okay, talking to myself makes me feel lonely, like that type of thing. I just sort of infuse that together. One section is about a panic attack and how things were spinning when I was in the store, and how I remember so vividly walking through out of the candle section to go to the manager's area or the back office where the managers were, and walking through and saying, keep my paycheck, this is it. I can't do this anymore for like this during my college summer job experience during Christmas break. I did talk about how suicide is another concern. There was one called the Invisible Pandemic. So I have information about COVID, and then after that I go back and forth between COVID, suicide, COVID, suicide. It's like I had some town officials would send emails during the pandemic about the status of, the rate of whatever statistics it was. So I have that, and also their way to mitigate certain things is like one paragraph, and then right afterwards I'd say, okay, well, although this is now something that's unseen, suicide is a problem, and then I'd say that rate, how it impacts certain people, certain ages, and how it should be discussed. And that chapter of the invisible pandemic is, you can't see a germ in COVID, but you can't see any mental illness either. So that's how I sort of connected it as invisible.
Okay, you say no one needs to be a legend. Accept it, leave a positive footprint. And then you go on to say perfect, and you describe what perfect means. And then you say understood, and you describe what that means. You say disability, and you describe what that means. And ableism.
Yeah.
How do you tie this all together?
So I picked those because obviously they're perfectly misunderstood. Perfect is, is something that's not always reachable. Nobody's perfect. Disability, it goes hand in hand. Disability and ableism go hand in hand, actually, because there's a lot of people that don't understand disabilities, and even throw on the fact that mental illness, a lot of people don't see, you can't see it. It's not like Down syndrome, or it's not like any behavior that an autistic student would do. Disabilities are sort of, they're misunderstood, and that's why the book title is Perfectly Misunderstood. The goal is to make people aware that, I guess a couple things. I want to make people aware that mental illness is something that you can't just cure by snapping out of it. Like medication is necessary. And then also, I wanted to make it interesting by infusing the lyrics because I love music so much. So it's a creative way to learn about an awareness of, disabilities that can't be seen. And I explain one of my situations when I was in the hospital. And I was diagnosed with, that first go around, it was Adderall mixed with alcohol. So they called it an acute psychotic break. So it was a one-time episode and it was manic. So then that type of thing is discussed in the book, and I am relatively a normal person. So I'm trying to get the point across that, any average Joe can have significant trauma or horrible experiences with mental illness, but they could still work and function throughout the day with another job that is pretty honorable, because I'd say teaching is an honorable position. So it's one of those things that, like, I went to an AA meeting recently, and then I met a person that has bipolar. And it's like those types of stories, it makes, when you know people that have similar issues, but also have a similar diagnosis, it's reassuring. And that's the thing that I think I wanted to get across, is that it is okay to be different mentally, and it's not always accepted. So there is a little bit of bullying that I do mention towards that type of issue too.
Yeah, and you try to make people feel like they're not alone.
Exactly. And I do talk a little bit about divorce too. So I had one of my cousins read it, and she said that she wished she read this book when she was going through the divorce, just because it was insightful. And, I think it made her feel like she wasn't alone. I think there's an aspect of it, well, with marriage and stuff, that it's like, do you grow together or do you grow apart? And it's part of my story is intertwined there, because I had that manic episode and then got the divorce. And it's almost like, well, would it have happened if I didn't have that episode? I don't know.
The manic episode where you were in the hospital because you had mixed alcohol with Adderall.
Yeah, that was the chemical imbalance there. I think stress also had a lot to do with it. But now I actually was in the hospital again in March, and they labeled me as bipolar. So that's another thing. I'm hoping it won't be soon, but I'm hoping to write another book, and I could talk about bipolar.
And yet, through all of this, you've been a successful teacher helping special ed kids for almost 20 years.
Right.
That's remarkable.
Thank you.
That's an important message to get out there.
Yeah, I think so too. It's just, you can't judge a book by its cover.
Do you go out and talk about this?
I run into people. Actually, the funny thing is I talked about it while I was in the hospital. So a lot of people researched my name and everything.
And now you're going to write another book.
It'll be a couple of years, but I don't know. My name should be remembered AZ, so it'll be easier.
Okay, Angela Zurzola, author of Perfectly Misunderstood. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. It was great to talk with you.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.